Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Handpicked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. Basketball is back. Sam,
Mike,
how you doing?
It is midnight on the East Coast, and I'm talking with you about Phoenix Suns basketball. What a beautiful way to rein in the new season, and a way that it tells me that we are officially back. We are ready to go. We just watched a really fun game, actually.
We did.
So here's the thing. We were going to record no matter what after this first preseason game. We're going to do our over-unders. That'll be the vast majority of this episode. We were going to record a segment no matter what based on what happened tonight against the Lakers. Luckily, they gave us what actually turned out to be a really fun game with, I think, a lot of positive stuff to draw on as conclusions, to the point where I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get it all out here in 10 or 15 minutes, but we can try our best.
Yeah, it was a really, really fun game, and I think there was so much that happened in this game that it's good, I think, that we're going to have extra stuff to talk about as this preseason sort of rolls along, because there's a lot, I think, that we can get into. Real quick, before we talk about the game, I want to make one quick announcement for those who are listening, and that is that we have a whole bunch of brand new merchandise on our website, ethicalhoops.com. If you type in ethicalhoops.com, you can get to our merch. We have a new t-shirt for the podcast. It's called the Grimeline t-shirt. You'll see it. We have one inspired by playing random. You'll see that one as well. And one inspired by Bud's vitamins, the vitamins that he asks players to take, which means the exercises that he assigns to each one of the players. Check it out. Lots of new stuff, shirts, hoodies, hats. It's all there. ethicalhoops.com. We're very excited. We only do this usually like once a year. So check it out.
Once a
Buy
year.
stuff there. Support us, really.
Once a year. Yes, thank you, please, to anyone who supports us. But once a year, but we're hitting you with 3 new designs at a time this time, which I think is a new record for us. So, ethicalhoops.com, as you're saying. My favorite is the Bud's vitamin. Call it being bud-pilled, if you will. I'm feeling bud-pilled after game 1. How are you feeling about Mike Budenholzer? 1 game in. One meaningless basketball game in.
I messaged you halfway through and I said, well, I won't say exactly what I said, but maybe Frank was worse than we realized.
Yeah.
Is kind of the gist of what I was saying, because the amount of stuff that I think there was a point of the season where I was wondering, is Frank telling them to do these things and the players just don't want to do them, or is Frank just not telling them to do them? And I don't know. We don't really know. There's no need to relitigate last season in general. But specifically, I want to talk about the young guys because the way they battled back and won the game is the sort of big story of this game. But outside of that, when the big 3 was on the floor, the stuff that was happening offensively was so much better than what the Suns were doing last season. So much more actions involved Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Specifically, even when they didn't have the ball, either screening for the ball or screening near the ball.
Yeah.
Movement around the ball that works to get every single guy open. And look, we can talk about the amount of threes they took. We can talk about Kevin Durant not hitting any shots. Like, that's a part of the game. That's going to happen sometimes regardless.
None of them.
And that's all going to change.
None of them shot super well. That's part of what's so encouraging.
Booker was pretty good.
Booker hit his three.
Yeah.
Booker hit his threes, but I'm looking at the box score here. Booker 4 for 12, 3 for 6 from deep, and yeah, the 3-point thing is definitely a narrative. But Booker went 4 for 12, KD went 3 for 10, and Beal went 2 for 7. And we're still talking about it as look at how much they moved around the ball and how many guard screens and inverted pick and rolls there were, and Booker and KD screening for each other. And like, this is exactly the sort of stuff that we were begging for last year under Vogel and we didn't get.
Yes.
And here
it just makes so much more sense.
It's preseason game 1, and like I'm saying, they're not even shooting well yet, but you can already see the strategy forming and the system forming, and it looked really good, honestly. It was super encouraging. Even though they were down in that first half, and like the third stringers, the bench, the young guys, whatever, had to battle back, which we'll get to that in a second. It was still really encouraging from a strategic standpoint, I thought.
I agree. I think it all just made so much more sense in what they were doing and what they were capable of doing. The shots will go down as they get more used to playing with each other. It will look smoother as they get more used to playing with each other. The shot selection will make more sense once they understand the ways that they can get open against different types of defenses. But the scheme, what sort of matters when it comes to coaching, this was our first look at it, and it looked better than last year. And I don't think this is just sort of hopium, if you will, because a lot of it is stuff we talked about last year. It really was. I think our friend Kellen Olson immediately tagged you and I in a tweet, specifically calling out the amount of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker screening for the ball that we saw just in this first preseason game, because the amount of times that we peppered him about that when we were watching games with him on playback last year. He knows we were begging for it, and it happened in this game. And it's these types of actions, I think, that you need to do when you have multiple star players on a team. You can't just spread them out and run Nurkic on it, who didn't play in this game, just Nurkic screening for them all the time with the other two guys just standing off the ball. Involve them more, and that's what we saw in this game. And to me, the young guys are the second most encouraging thing, but the most encouraging thing to me that I saw was some semblance of an offensive system that started to make more sense for this team, this specific roster.
The team goes as far as the big three goes, and we've said that enough times at this point, but it really is true. They need to play up to their full potential. They can't play up to their full potential if they don't have the right infrastructure, the right coaching, the right scheme around them. So, yeah, no, absolutely, that was super important. But the young guys.
Yeah.
Remember a couple weeks ago, the superlative episode, whenever we did that, and I was like, there's going to be a lot of casual Suns fans, not even casual Suns fans, just the type of Suns fan who is a fan but doesn't watch Summer League, which, let's be honest, as most Suns fans don't watch Summer League. There's going to be a lot of those types. Maybe they're not big college basketball people. Like, if tonight was their introduction to Oso Ighodaro, I just know there were a lot of old dads watching Oso Ighodaro tonight and thinking, that guy can play. Like, that guy
should that guy start?
Yeah. Like, should he start? And I'm not sure if they're wrong. Oso was so good. He finished 12 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 6 for 8 from the field. He played 27 minutes in this game, of course, because Nurkic is out with finger injury.
And it's a preseason game.
And it's a preseason game. By the way, we got confirmation. We didn't know about this when we recorded our earlier segment about the over-unders with Max. We recorded that before this preseason game. That Nurkic finger injury is his left hand, not his shooting hand. Important to know.
It's good.
But yeah, Oso got to play 27 minutes. He was sensational, and he wasn't the only one, but he's the one that I wanted to start with because I see a path. Like, I see Mason Plumlee, you might be in trouble. I don't know. Like, he was really impressive.
He really was. Look, and I think most of the impressive parts, truthfully, were offensive, right? That's where he was really shining to me. I think there was some moments when he was playing early on when the Lakers were still sort of playing their actual NBA players that are going to play in important minutes for them.
Oh,
where they were targeting him
Yeah.
and he struggled a little bit. That stuff's going to get better. That's always how rookies look at the beginning of a season, especially this early preseason, first minutes as an NBA player.
Yeah.
Offensively, on the other hand, he didn't look like somebody who just got to the NBA. He just doesn't look like that. Immediately chemistry, which Colin Gillespie we're going to talk about because, my God, he looked awesome. But immediate chemistry with all of the point guards he was playing with on the floor. And the passing, man, the passing is great. It stands out when he passes the ball because he's making reads that are the regular reads, which are the types of passes that, like Nurkic can make and DeAndre and often couldn't, which is just a pass to cutters, the bounce pass as they cut behind their man. But like there was one specific pass, I posted a clip of it, I know you noticed it, where he had the ball at the top of the key. The cutter was at the wing, and there was a corner guy there as well. And the defense was sagging off the corner to stop the cutter. And he threw a skip pass that was a laser without picking up the ball, just off the dribble with his right hand directly to the corner, skipping the normal rotation of what the ball could potentially be, directly to Josh Okogie, who then blew by his man because he was panicking because the pass was so good, and scored a layup at the rim. A nice finish by Josh Okogie,
Fantastic game for Josh Okogie, by the way. Battling.
A really good one, yes. And it just, the type of read, the immediacy of that pass, and how on the money the pass was with one hand, was the type of play that you see from a rookie that stands out. Because it shows a skill set that you weren't used to seeing from young guys like that.
I think that the sort of stuff that people said about Oso coming in to the league is like, oh, he's a plus playmaker for his position. You hear that a lot, that term for his position, when you're trying to complement a center, but you're still kind of like sort of saying don't run the offense through this guy maybe. But Oso, I think that's underselling it a little bit. Like he's coming in here and he's executing reads on game one. And I do want to touch on what you were saying about him playing against real players too. Not just the stretch in the second half, but like him and Ryan Dunn both. But like he's executing reads that the wings on this team can't do. Like Royce O'Neal and Josh Okogie and those types of guys, they can't make those passes either.
Yeah. Grayson's a bad passer.
Oso is coming out here and he is running their offense by the fourth quarter. Now, again, in the first half, him and Ryan Dunn both maybe didn't stand out as much in the first half, but I just want to point out how many guys come in to their first preseason game and their direct primary assignment from like the first minute that they step onto the court. Oso is literally guarding Anthony Davis and Ryan Dunn is literally guarding LeBron James. That's what those two guys were faced with. It's not like they come in like most rookies. And again, these guys weren't lottery picks. They were picked 20-something and 40-something. And, they're not coming out there and guarding Gabe Vincent and Jackson Hayes, right? They're coming out and Bud is giving Ryan Dunn the LeBron James assignment, which is absolutely ludicrous. And, I thought he did okay. He had a couple stops. And Oso as well. Like he had one good stop, and then most of the time he looked overpowered because Anthony Davis has a 50-pound weight advantage on him. Like or maybe not 50, but 30, right? So it's not that surprising. I thought that
Rui Hachimura also massive, pushing them around a little bit too.
Yeah. I mean, the two held their own as best they could. Oso, we're going to talk about, like, the scouting report's going to say attack him when he's in drop coverage, which he's going to be in drop coverage most of the time, maybe, based on what I saw. I saw, I think, only drop coverage tonight from the Suns, basically. I'm not sure if I really noticed any switching.
Well, they had some minutes with Ryan Dunn and Bol out there with Oso. Not much, but something that you and I talked about in our lineups episode and our internal development episodes from previous. And they did play a little bit more aggressive in those minutes. I'm just not sure if it's something they're going to do pretty regularly.
Yeah, it looked like Bud Ball, right? I guess, I shouldn't be so surprised.
Well,
no, it did.
They went to small ball 5 with Ryan. Basically, Ryan Dunn
that's the one exception. That's
very early in the game, and I was shocked that they did that so early.
I know.
I know. I mean, a KD at center, you can call it KD, and there's still a 7-footer on the floor here, but it kind of wasn't. It kind of was Ryan Dunn at center in those minutes, and it was pretty fascinating to see. Preseason game 1, we're already going KD sole big man on the floor. In preseason game 1, I think that says something to me.
I definitely agree with that, and it says something to me too that Bud is willing to be inventive a lot more than maybe I gave him credit for. But also, I mean, like 45 out of the 48 minutes, they did keep a traditional big on the floor if you count Oso as a traditional big, and in those minutes it was largely drop coverage and shooting a lot of threes. They took 39 threes as a team. And that is what I'm referring to when I say Bud Ball. I shouldn't be surprised, but I guess I am a little bit. And I think some of that's going to reflect in maybe some of my answers, some of our answers that you guys hear from us in the rest of the episode.
It's good that we recorded that before this game, because I would have reacted to every tiny little thing that they did in this one.
For sure.
And I will remind you, and I mentioned this last during the recording of the over-under part, which we recorded, like we said, before the game. First preseason game last year, Devin Booker had 10 3-point attempts in that first game, and I thought everything was changing at that point as well. And then it kind of sort of slowly morphed back to what we call normal at that point, and we'll see if this holds. And look, that's what overreacting, like we're overreacting. That's what's fun about sports sometimes, is we have the opportunity to overreact. And speaking of that, if we're going to say that, maybe that last roster spot is going to be meant for Colin Gillespie. If I have the opportunity to overreact here, I'm watching him play and thinking they need to sign this guy in a 4-year contract right now, just in case this is real and he can actually play, because it's sort of that sort of Lou Dort thing that you do, where if guys prove it, you sign them just in case, and maybe a little bit of money that's non-guaranteed just to make sure, because man, he kind of rocks, and he only played almost exclusively against the Lakers' end of their bench, right? I know. Well, D'Angelo Russell was playing some of those minutes too, I think. But he looked awesome. Like, Colin Gillespie just looks like an NBA player.
Yeah,
this is a guy who's 21 points, 10.5 assists, and 9 rebounds in the G League last year, and did play in the NBA on the Denver Nuggets for some games as well. And he just rocks. He looks really good.
He already kicked butt, as you were saying, against G League competition. Like, I had to relook it up because I couldn't remember how old he was. He is 25 years old. But yeah, he more than holds his own kind of against the fringes of the league, the players who are just barely scraping the surface or just kind of fighting to have a cup of coffee in the league.
I mean, against those guys, because that's the G League, he looks like an MVP candidate.
Based on the
guys,
limited tape I've seen of Colin Gillespie, like, it feels like he could totally just earn minutes on a bad team in the NBA right now. And you know, he's trying to make a go of it on an actual good team, so it's going to be substantially harder for him to earn minutes for the Suns. But yeah, I mean, maybe he does have a shot at that last roster spot. I'm not going to say anything definitive right now.
It's just they don't need it. The Suns don't need it. This is the reason why it doesn't matter.
Preseason.
It's just you sign him because he's good, and then you trade him later, or you trade Monte Morris if he finds a way to outplay, which I'm not saying he will. Like, this is all just fun overreacting here. And because it's just one preseason game where he looked awesome. It's just a guy that if you find the right, like right now. And even before this podcast episode, we think that Oso Ighodaro was potentially a steal at where he was picked. And that's the goal, right? We need that to potentially be the case. And if they find a way to find another diamond in the rough, that's how you sustain longer runs on teams that don't have a lot of flexibility financially like the Suns do. They're the most strapped when it comes to their ability to make changes to this team, so they have to find ways to Miami Heat themselves and find guys that were not signed and turn them into NBA players so that they could find players to extend whatever run that they have. I know this episode's going to get very long, so I don't want to spend too long on much else, but I gotta say, Damian Lee out there.
Oh yeah, he was good. Looking
like Damian Lee was awesome. It's just really nice to see him after that gruesome injury that we never saw. Of course, it happened in the offseason last year. To come back and look like Damian Lee. He looked like Damian Lee again. Like, it looked like the same player that played 2 years ago.
Yeah, he looked really comfortable with his shot, made some moves to the basket as well. He's going to be such an asset to have from a leadership perspective, but also, like, he can play. And he just showed it tonight that he can still play. I don't know how much they're going to need to use him if they stay healthy, but, you know, I also know that not everyone's going to be healthy all season long, and he'll be ready to fill in when he has to. But one more time, I'm just going to emphasize, Mike, 10 years ago, 2014, something would happen in the second round of the NBA draft that would forever change the landscape of the league. A player drafted 41st overall from Serbia. His name was Nikola Jokic. 10 years later, at almost exactly the same pick position, 40th overall in the 2024 NBA draft. The greatest second-round big man since Nikola Jokic. And his name is Oso Ighodaro. I was wondering if maybe you were going to fill it in for me, but
I needed you to finish that.
you
Yeah,
didn't help me out. That's okay.
I think that's a good place to wrap up. Those are our preseason overreactions, and hopefully some of them are not overreactions. Check out ethicalhoops.com for all of our new merchandise. We're going to switch over now to our yearly annual tradition, which is our over-unders with our friend Max. After the break, we'll be back with those over-unders. Thanks, everyone. All right, joining us is our friend and our lawyer, former host of the 7 Seconds or Less podcast, Max McCauley. Max, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks again for having us on. We said before in pre-production that this is the 6th year we're doing this, which is insane.
Yes.
I can't believe it. Time flies, but I think it's going to be a fun year to do it.
Yeah, it
Year
should be
6.
really fun.
All of us have won at least once.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know who's won the most times. I'll be honest. I don't think it's me. But all of us have won. And we're back at it for year number 6. Yeah, man, that is absolutely insane.
Max, we talk to you twice a year, at least, obviously, on the podcast, sometimes more outside of it, but I'm really curious. Last year, you were pretty early on, and we talked about this in our end of season podcast that we did after the season. Pretty early on, you were early on the train of Frank Vogel is doing a bad job for this team. And they agreed. The players appeared to agree. The general manager and ownership group appeared to agree. Frank Vogel was fired. They hired a new coach in Mike Budenholzer. I don't remember if we had already known about Mike when we recorded with you last. I don't think we did. I think it was like during that phase where they were trying to figure it out. So I'm really curious, just from a general perspective, knowing what we know about how you felt about last year, how you feeling about this upcoming season?
You know, Mike, pretty good. This is going to be a much more positive podcast than the last one, I think, for a couple of reasons. The first reason you already mentioned, I think I think there's no question we have an upgrade as a coach. It's just the degree to which he's an upgrade with Bud. I think the biggest problem with Frank last year, the thing I was most annoyed by, is it seemed like we just didn't have a plan, especially on offense. It just didn't really have a system, it didn't feel like to me. And Bud is maybe the best coach in the league at least getting a system installed. He has his playoff limitations, adjustments, things like that, things people criticize him for. But I think for what this Suns team needed, some structure, he's basically the best possible hire. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's huge. Another thing I think is really important is the Olympics. Katie and Booker, for this team to do anything, need to be superstars, right? They got to be top 10 players. Last year, they were kind of borderline top 10 players. Neither one was as spectacular as I think they need to be. And to have them like kind of have that fun experience playing basketball together and in the Olympics, I think is just a nice way to kind of wash the stink away of last season. And then the other reason, maybe the biggest reason for optimism, is the point guard thing. Getting Tyus Jones for nothing. Monte Morris is now a backup, which is incredible. I mean, you know, the amount of fourth quarters they'd start and just turn the ball over like 7 times in a row and just give the other team like, you know, a 10-point run immediately. That should be remedied, I think. So yeah, I think there's a lot of reason for optimism. I don't think we're going to win the title. I still see some flaws with this roster, but overall, much more positive than I was to start the offseason.
It definitely feels like they at least have a puncher's chance at a title in a way that maybe they didn't before. And I really just keep coming back to Tyus Jones, right? Like I think prior to that signing, which again we've talked a million times about the CBA and the second apron and all that Grant Williams and CJ McCollum did to like create this really weird free agency period, but prior to that signing, it felt like they had mostly addressed the issues. I definitely liked the Monte Morris signing. But Tyus coming out of left field in, when was that, late July, mid-July? Can't remember anymore. It definitely added some juice, right, Max, to probably how you felt about the offseason in totality.
Yeah, 100%, because, you know, everyone was always saying we need a point guard, and my thought was always like, kind of, but we don't need a shitty one, right? We need a good one. And I didn't see any way we were going to get a good one based on our structure. Everyone knows the second apron, all that stuff. So Tyus Jones falling in our lap for a minimum. I mean, he's not a minimum player, obviously. That was just such a coup and really does, inject some positivity, some enthusiasm for the season.
I'm really excited about this season, too, and I was thinking about why recently, outside of all of the obvious basketball stuff, Mike Budenholzer, point guards, the potential to shoot more threes, and we'll talk about how much we believe that's possible when we get into our over-unders, but The other part that I was sort of smacked with when I was thinking about this was, oh wait, my expectations have changed. I'm not expecting them to compete for a title, and it's not to say that they won't. Maybe there is a world where everything works out and they actually are competing at the highest level. But after last season, my feeling about why I even watched these games changed in that I was just like, wow, that was miserable. That sucked to watch and sort of be a part of. And I found myself just sort of thinking, I just want it to be fun again. I want them to look like they're having fun. I want the team to be good. And even like if they win the exact same number of games, 49 games, but they're not constantly embarrassing us as fans, I think that would be enough. And that sort of change of expectations where I feel like, you know what, I just want this to be fun and I want to watch a good, fun team. And if things click, I want them to compete at the highest level. That is sort of how I feel more excited about this team. It is, I don't have any over-unders about whether or not they could make the NBA Finals or anything like that. It's not to say that I don't think it's possible. Yeah, which we've had in the past. I just didn't think there was a reason to have that this year because it's so hard to predict what this team's going to be. But I'm curious how much your expectations, Max, and even Sam, have changed from like when we did this podcast before last season.
Yeah, you basically described exactly how I feel. That's dead on. Like, it was such a chore to watch the team last year. It was a misery, like almost every single night, with everything that was going wrong and just the lack of cohesion. Especially with the Tyus Jones signing, it just feels like the team is going to at least be competent and fun to watch. Like, they're at least going to be well run. To your point, they might not win a lot more games, or maybe they'll even win fewer games, but if they just don't have those miserable, horrible stretches where they just blow 10-point leads constantly, that will be just to me, you're right, the expectations are reset. That to me is a win.
So to speak for myself, I partially agree with what you guys are saying. However, 49 wins, I mean, maybe I'm setting myself up for disappointment, but I do still have higher expectations of this team than that. I do still want to believe that they can compete for a championship. And yes, I want them to have more fun. I think a lot of the fun is going to come in the form of Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro and, Bol and just having players under the age of 25 doing things. That is not something we've had for a few years. And I think that's where a lot of the fun is going to be. But then, yeah, absolutely, some of it is Tyus Jones too. But if Tyus Jones plays well and he's running a good offense and, they nip the turnover issue in the bud, then there's no reason that they shouldn't also be winning a lot more games. And so I get it. They're not the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're not the Boston Celtics. They're probably not even in the top 5 favorites for championship contention right now going into the season. But I'd still be disappointed with 49 wins, man. I want more. I want more out of a team with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And am I setting myself up for disappointment? Maybe, but I do still expect more of this team than I think what you're saying, Mike.
I will say that you're setting me up nicely for the last few over-unders that we have on here, because I do wonder, win total, is it just a really interesting thing to talk about with what the West is going to be?
That's true. There's the whole Memphis thing that we're going to, I'm sure, touch on when we get there.
Yeah, and maybe the Clippers will just be awful and it won't change.
They will.
It's the same number. Yeah, I think they're probably going to be bad. But, okay, let's get into it. And I can explain what this is for those who are maybe new listeners this year, or if you don't remember from previous years. What we do every year is similar to a lot of NBA podcasters that cover the whole NBA will go through over-unders. Bill Simmons famous for this with Joe House, going through every team's over-under for win totals and then giving a case for whatever they choose for that. This is entirely Suns focused. There's one real over-under that I took from FanDuel. That's the win total. Everything else, I just made up. Just completely just made up the number, and then we're going to keep track of what each of us say. If you're listening to this now and have access to the podcast info, there will be a link there for you as a listener to fill out your guesses for these over-under lines. There's 13 of them. And then at the end of the season, we'll come back on this podcast. We'll review and laugh about how things really were dramatically different than anything that we expected, because that's usually how it goes every year. Seasons are long.
We've gone back and forth with this in the past of should we do this at the beginning of preseason? Should we do it at the end of preseason? We're recording this before the Suns' first preseason game against the Lakers. And I think that's the right way to do it, especially if we want to make the end of season episode funnier, because narratives are going to
I don't know, man.
Form.
Booker took 10 threes in the first preseason game last year, and I was like, everything's changing. I was genuinely
But that's
convinced.
what I mean.
Yeah.
Narratives form so fast, and things change so quickly that we can't even conceive of necessarily right now, because we haven't seen a single minute of any of these guys play, that I think the more variance, the better for this type of content, because it makes it a little bit more ridiculous, difficult to predict.
All right. I agree with that. Let's get into it. I'll start with, I think, a logical place to start, which is the starting point guard on this team. He told us the moment he was signed that he would be starting, and that's Tyus Jones. And I have 2 for Tyus Jones, assists per game and points per game. Let's go with assists first. Really curious where you guys stand with this. Assists per game, starting point guard. I put the number at 7.5. Let me give you a little bit of context for Tyus Jones. When he started with Memphis, his last season with Memphis, Ja Morant missed, I think, something like 31 games. And in those games that Ja Morant missed with Memphis, this is when they were good, right? Not last season, but the season before. Tyus Jones averaged 16 points and 8.1 assists on that team. 16 points was a surprise for me, by the way. When
got
I
up
looked
to
at
16. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And in Washington last year, where he started every game he played on a bad team with the fastest pace in the league, 12 points and 7.3 assists, and that's as a starter in Washington. So I put the number somewhere between those, because he, considering the difference between the star type players that he was playing with when Ja Morant was out with in Memphis, it's not like he's sharing it with 2 other guards the way that he's going to here in Phoenix. And then, of course, you have to factor in Washington, he's got to do a little bit better than that just by passing to better players. You're going to assume they're going to make the shot a little bit more often. Now, this is sort of a question to me about what we think Tyus Jones' role is going to be. We know what he's going to do, but is he going to be the guy racking up all the assists on this team? Max, you're our guest. We can start with you. 7.5 assists per game for Tyus Jones. What do you think, over or under?
I'll say it's a very good number. Once again, you're great at this, Mike. You said great lines. I think I'm going to go under. So if this was a assist per minute statistic you did, I think I would probably go over. I think there will be times when they just can't play Tyus Jones, because it's going to be hard to play Tyus, Beal, and Booker together against certain teams in certain situations. So I think maybe the minutes won't quite be there for him to get to 7.5, but I think while he's playing, I mean, you went over it. He's going to have so many options to get assists from. I mean, he's never played with talent like this. So I think he'll go over on a per minute, but because this is not per minute, I'm going to go under.
Sam, what do you think?
I'm also, again, it's good. It's good. I'm tempted to go under as well, and to agree with Max. I think what's interesting about Tyus is they brought him in as much, well, not as much, like not in equal proportion, but they didn't want Ricky Rubio, right? They didn't want a guy who could spam assists and pick and roll, but they were like questioning his ability to play off ball. And that's specifically not who Tyus Jones is. He shot 41% from deep last year. I think they wish he would maybe even take that shot a little bit more often, but he can make catch and shoot threes. He can play off of Booker and Beal. And yes, there are going to be lots and lots of sets and plays where he's the primary initiator, in fact, the majority of them. But combined with what Max is saying, that maybe he doesn't get the minutes, like maybe he doesn't get up to, say, 30 minutes a game, even though he's the starter, because maybe he's not closing certain times. Or, I also just think there's going to be stretches where Book is really the one running the offense, and Tyus is kind of just there on the wing. And so I'm tempted to say, like, maybe he finishes in the 6 to 7 range for assists and not at 7.5 or above.
Yeah, you guys both make a really convincing. I had not decided what I'm going to do on any of these, and it was nice to hear both of your cases here for under, because I'm almost leaning towards under. I do think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Kyle Kuzma had one of the highest usage rates in the league last year, playing with Tyus Jones, and Tyus Jones still had 7.3 assists.
Yeah, that's a decent counter argument, right? Is like, take out Kyle Kuzma and give him Kevin Durant. Take out Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma and replace that with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and you should get more assists, right? For sure.
Yeah, so I am going to go with over because he's playing with a better team. But on the other side of that, I do think the biggest reason to go under, which both of you did, is no pick and roll center, really. I mean, yes, we have Plumlee, and I think Oso Ighodaro, when he gets in there, obviously is going to be great at that. But Nurkic, I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of easy assists, a lot of the ability to rack up assists comes from for a good point guard, passing to a center at the rim who's able to get up there pretty quick and get an easy assist. On this team, so many assists are going to have to come from jump shooters, which are just a lower percentage shot. So the chances that he's going to rack them up are lower. But I'm still going to go over, just from the fact that I think he can just get more than Washington last year, and that's my only guess. But yeah, what do you think, Sam?
Well, I want to throw it to Max actually about that kind of, because what if Yusuf Nurkic? What if he's giving Tyus the pick and pop assists instead of the pick and roll assists?
Save that
Max.
one. We have an over under.
Okay, we have one for that.
I do have one more point though that goes towards the over that I just thought of. To the extent Beal or Booker misses time, and obviously not exactly hard to imagine Beal missing time. That's going to be really good for the over on this one, obviously, because Tyus will step in there, play even more, and have more opportunity to get rack up assists.
That's a good point. And even, right now, we haven't seen this preseason game, but Nurkic is already out with a middle finger injury, so they do have sort of pick and roll guys coming in to play. Now, on to his points, though. He averaged 12 points last year with Washington, and I put the over-under at 12.5 points for Tyus Jones this year. And I think it's the reason I put it differently because he 16 points as a starter with Memphis in his last season was with Memphis. And that number really stood out to me because that was a good team and they had a winning record with him as their starting point guard when he was scoring 16 points a game in those starting games, which is like I said, like 31 games or something like that. And it's now I'm looking at the number wondering, I'm curious, I guess, what you guys will pick, but I do kind of feel like defenses are kind of going to leave him alone a lot and maybe give him the opportunity to either score at the rim or have catch and shoot opportunities to score on this team where maybe he's not shooting a lot, but he's going to have a lot of good opportunities to take good shots on this team. But let's start with you this time, Sam. What do you think? Tyus Jones points per game, 12.5.
If you said 12, which is exactly what he did last year, then I would take the over for sure. But at 12.5, I'm not. I guess the argument you're making that defenses are going to leave him open a lot, you're probably right. But I also keep coming back to defenses are going to leave Yusuf Nurkic open a lot too. Yeah. Which again, I'm sure we're going to get there. I'm sure we're going to get there.
Yeah.
But I'm like, who is truly the guy with the least gravity of the starting five? And is it really Tyus or is it someone else? I think I'm going to take the under again, man. I'm going to go under on both.
I think it's fair. What do you think, Max?
I'm more swayed by the argument that he's going to be left alone a whole lot with the three guys he's going to be playing with. So I think he'll go over. He's just going to have, he's going to have a lot of opportunities to shoot threes. Bud's going to encourage it. So I think I'll go over, but it's a good number again.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go under only because I feel like I'm countering the assists that I went over on. But like 13 points and 8 assists, it feels pretty reasonable for him next year, and that would be the over on both, but maybe hitting under on one or the other doesn't seem that crazy. I think he's going to be great. I'll just mention this again. I think the point that you made, Max, about the constant number that we heard about last year was their plus minus in the fourth quarter, and that really was very turnover based. Whether they had the lead, because often it was they were up by 25, right? And then all of a sudden it was a 3-point game in the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter because they just keep coughing it up over and over and over again. And, that changing is going to be one of the biggest changes for this team. And it will take some sacrifice by the big three. And I'm very curious how much they're going to be willing to do that.
Well, also, Max, I'm curious of your take on just kind of like, because a lot of people debate, okay, Tyus is the starting point guard, but will he close in lineups because of the whole defensive size issue? What do you value more in the fourth quarter between kind of like you brought in this guy to be able to run your offense and rein in the turnovers versus, say, if you throw Grayson or even Royce O'Neal or another another switch-heavy defensive wing out there. What do you think they're going to opt for more often?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to answer that in a vacuum because I do think it'll be matchup dependent. But generally, I expect they'll probably go with Tyus just because he'll settle things down. And honestly, he's probably just going to be one of their 5 best players. So they're going to want to have him out there. But there will be matchups. We talked about this a couple times already, but where I don't think it makes sense to have the 3 of those guys out there. And I don't see them benching, obviously not Booker, but even Beal. I don't see a scenario where Beal doesn't play crunch time.
All right, let's talk about Jusuf Nurkic. Total 3-point attempts on the season is my Jusuf Nurkic number here.
Love it.
Love it. His career high 3-point shots attempted is 119, which was 2 seasons ago in Portland. Last year he took 90. He said at Media Day that it wasn't his choice to stop shooting those 3-pointers, meaning Frank Vogel asked him to after looking at the box scores and seeing his overall 3-point percentage.
24% on the season, for anyone wondering at home.
We have Budenholzer talking about Nurkic shooting threes. We have Nurkic himself talking about shooting more threes. Just recently, Kirk Goldsberry was on the Bill Simmons podcast, and he said insider information that he has is that the Suns really want Nurkic to shoot threes this year. Mike Budenholzer.
I totally missed that. That's hilarious.
Yes.
That's like league-wide information that's spreading around.
Now, I put the number at 125, which is only 6 more than his career high.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it at this number because there's just not a lot of evidence that he can shoot them well. Now, this is assuming he tries, and he puts real effort into trying, a real sort of Mike Budenholzer type of effort in, like he did with Al Horford or Brook Lopez. We have to mention him every podcast. But it's still career high, but it's not a lot, right? It's not like a huge number. I'll go first, in fact, and I'm going to say under.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I think history has shown us that he's not been great at it. He already has a middle finger injury, and I don't know what I would have put this number at had I set the line before seeing that middle finger injury news. I may have set it a little bit higher.
Do we know what hand that's affecting?
We don't. Actually, I don't.
Okay.
It's possible that it's out there, but I don't know.
Okay.
So this is Max. This is a question for you. You can choose your over-under, but your overall thoughts on the Brook Lopez-ification of Jusuf Nurkic by Coach Mike Budenholzer. What do you think?
I certainly understand why that is the goal and why we're pushing that and why there's all this propaganda to that effect, because I think it would be very, very good. I mean, I think it's obviously it would be very, very good if that happened. If, they somehow turned Nurkic into a 40% three-point shooter who took, 3 or 4 a game, that would be lovely. But I'm going to have to fade it. Usually you should bet against career highs just because they don't have them very often. So I'll go to the under for that reason. But, it's one of those ones where I hope I'm wrong.
Give me the over, baby. I'm absolutely slamming this over. And you can maybe call it hopium or copium or whatever you want to say. But look, that season that he had a career high, he took 2.3 a game in Portland, but he only played 52 games that season is the thing I'm looking at right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking to myself, well, if he just takes 2 per game, which is not necessarily a career high rate per game, but he stays healthy enough to give us 65 games played, he'll get there.
He would?
He'll get there. And so I don't know. I don't think this takes too much. Yes, I obviously hope he's good at it, right? But ultimately, if he's shooting 2 to 2.5 of them a game at 33%, I think, honestly, that's enough for me to be, satisfied. I don't need Nurk shooting 40% on threes, like Max said. As lovely as that would be, just give me 33, maybe 35. That would be wonderful.
Just give
He's
me,
gonna get there.
70% from the free throw line. How about that?
That would be great, too.
Yeah. How about finish at the rim every once in a while?
Yeah, it's
nice
just, it's really hard to think that I don't know. It's possible. Guys have these career-changing moments in their career that are often 3-point shooting based. So that would be the only way for something like this.
And it's tantalizing because it's the coach that did it with Brook Lopez, as you mentioned earlier. So it is tantalizing.
Yeah,
Brook Lopez.
It is crazy. Brook Lopez's career is nuts. For those, I feel like a lot of people don't remember early Brook Lopez. A lot of younger people. It's a completely different player.
Well, he was also on some horrendous first New Jersey Nets and then Brooklyn Nets teams. I'm looking at Brook Lopez's
he was
career.
Vucevic without threes, basically, back then. You know?
Yes, he was. He was.
Yep.
His career. So he started doing the whole 3-point thing his last year in Brooklyn, his age 28 season. How old is Nurk now, by the way? Is he like 30?
30, I think. Let me check.
Okay, so he's older than 28. I was just curious. For Brook, it was like his 8th season, and his entire career up to that point where he started shooting threes, his entire career, he shot 3 for 31 on threes, which is 9.7% across like 8 years. And then in year 9, he takes almost 400 attempts at 35%.
Crazy.
Like, and you guys are right to say that that's an outlier case for a reason. There's a reason we continue to talk about that case and not like everyone doing it 10 years later. So yeah, maybe we shouldn't bet on that being Nurk, but like, can he be half of that? I would love for him to be half.
And also, Nurk actually has much more of a history. It's much more plausible that you could see him being a shooter than it was for Brook Lopez. That really was unlikely.
Yeah, I'm looking at Al Horford too. He, before 2015-16, which we know who the coach of that team was, he had topped out at half a 3-point attempt per game. And then in 15-16, 3.1 per game is where he went to, shot 34% that year. And then we know where he is now, that his entire role offensively is to pass and shoot corner threes. The thing that's different about this team too, I think, is Nurkic almost has to shoot above the break threes because they just don't have a lot of screening outside of Nurkic unless KD really puts a ton of effort into screening on the ball this year, or they do a lot of like sort of reverse type of pick and rolls, or even something like Devin Booker screening for Tyus Jones. I really don't know like how that could potentially look.
Nurk in the corner, beyond the point that you're making, like I don't even know what the percentage, how many corner threes he's even taken in his career, but that
almost
also
none.
It just feels like a really bad formula for transition defense, right? Like you get a bad bounce off the corner three. He's not the most agile guy. He's not going to be able to get back and be in any sort of position. And it just kind of feels like you're asking to get the ball ran down your throat a little bit if you do that. Yeah. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of it. I think we're going to see mostly Nurk in the pick and pop position or just as a trailer, right? I think he's mostly going to be used like that.
Mason Plumlee, Max, what do you think? I don't have any Mason Plumlee over-unders, so I'm curious your thoughts on that signing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, he's one of those guys who has really good years and then really bad years, so you hope you get him on the really good year. But, I mean, it's hard to imagine he's not going to be at least a minor upgrade on Drew Eubanks. I don't understand why Utah signed Drew Eubanks. He was absolutely terrible last year, in my opinion. So I think almost certainly he's an upgrade, but, again, hopefully get the good Plumlee year.
Eubanks had a year where he probably shouldn't be in the NBA after that, but the Suns also gave him no point guards. And I do think that's a player that deserved... Yeah, Watanabe-esque year, yeah. I do think that Drew Eubanks is the type of player that needed a point guard to really succeed. Let's talk about the rookies. Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro, 2 over-unders here. Total games played.
That's a good one.
41, half the season. And maybe this is a low number for some of the people listening here. But personally, when I look at this roster and I look at how they're set up to play, I find it hard to see minutes specifically for Ryan Dunn when they're fully healthy. Oso Ighodaro, on the other hand, although I don't see a lot of minutes for them being fully healthy, I think there will be opportunities for him just based on them not being fully healthy, unless, of course, Frank Kaminsky outplays him somehow in training camp and then earns himself a roster spot and then becomes the third-string center. So this is essentially saying, will these guys play more than half of the games this season?
This is...
Combined?
Sorry, yeah.
41 for each, sorry.
41
so
for
I have
each.
two
So
separate over-unders here, yeah.
They're two separate prompts.
Ryan
so
Dunn, 41, Oso Ighodaro, 41, yeah.
Okay, so it's not like both of them need to play over 41. We can
separate ones. We have two separate ones. I'll keep score of them separately, but I bunched them together here because I think... Well, honestly, it was partially inspired by the poll that you posted, Sam, which included who people thought would play the most games, and I'll let you go first, Sam, since I brought that up here. But
Sure.
you asked people on Twitter who would play more games out of Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro, Josh Okogie, and Damian Lee.
Yeah.
And Ryan Dunn, I think, was the winner of that poll. And I think you disagreed, if I'm not mistaken, right?
By far, yeah. I don't know if you saw that one, Max, but I just threw that out there because I was like, these are probably guys number 11 through 14 in the depth chart right now, and who's going to play more, the veterans or the young guys. By and large, people wanted Ryan Dunn in that sort of 11th spot, leading the third unit, if you will, which I think makes sense why people feel that way. He was the first-round draft pick, but I think if there's anyone here who actually has a chance to play the most, it's Oso. Maybe I'll feel differently about that if Frank Kaminsky actually gets the final roster spot, but I still feel like that's not going to happen, right? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he's good again. Who knows?
If they give Frank the 15th roster spot because he is on the roster right now, then probably Oso isn't going to play as much as I'm thinking. But if Frank doesn't get that spot and Oso is the third string center in the depth chart and Nurk has injuries that keeps him in and out of the lineup, I just think it's inevitable that Oso is going to hit over 41, right? Because like the other thing that goes into my calculation internally here is games played is a tough statistic, because if we're just counting a game played, like 20 of those are going to be blowouts, either wins or losses. So like I'm thinking like 20 games for Oso will just be he enters with the third unit for 3 minutes at the end of the fourth quarter. And now all I need is for him to play like another 20 games legitimately. And with various injuries, if he's the third string center, I think he can get there.
What about Ryan Dunn?
Dunn, I'm going to go over too, just because fuck it, why not? I'll go over on both. It's
Max,
more fun.
Max, are you feeling hyped on the rookies?
A little bit. Oso more than Dunn. I think Dunn might take a little while. One thing real quick before the over-under on the Kaminsky thing, it seems pretty clear to me that he's an awesome locker room guy and Booker loves him and the guys love him.
That's true.
There's a chance he earns a spot just to be that 15th man who everybody loves. So I'm not necessarily going to worry too much about Oso or whatever if he makes it. That said, I mean, I thought when you first were introducing this, Mike, that you were talking about like combined, whether they combined will be over 41, and even there I was questioning, I wasn't sure.
All right.
So I'm going to go under on both. Particularly Dunn, he's so bad offensively. I just don't know if he's going to be playable right away unless he really got better. The shot really improved over the summer. The guy can't shoot right now, and if you can't do anything on offense, it's just kind of hard to play you. And then Oso, I think Oso's where I pause a little bit here, and it's possible because I think he's really good and he's pretty sophisticated already. I could see him working in like a Budenholzer system right away. But that said, I mean, there's a lot in front of him still. He's not doesn't totally fit a need that we absolutely have to have on the team. So I'm gonna go under on both, but I hope I'm wrong again.
You're gonna look pretty silly, Max, when Ryan Dunn posterizes LeBron in preseason tonight, and Mike and I are talking about it at the head of this episode.
Which LeBron? The older one or the younger one?
Shut up.
That's hilarious.
He has a better chance, I think, of the younger one. Actually, I don't know. At this point of his career, maybe he has a better chance on the older one. You outlined why I'm going to go under on Ryan Dunn and over on Oso Ighodaro, personally.
Split
Max.
the difference.
Yeah, because I agree. I just think Ryan Dunn, I'm excited about him. But, and KD is excited about him. I think KD has gone out of his way to mention how good Ryan Dunn has looked in practices. And I thought it was funny to see the clips of them working out together and the types of shots that Ryan Dunn was hitting in those workout clips, like the highlights, because he does look good in those. And also, he would never be allowed to take those shots in the NBA. He has to. It's tough. It's really tough for, I think, young guys in the NBA to come into the NBA and then understand that their role is now to catch and shoot threes only, and then get to the rim if the rim is open, or if you can play through contact at the rim. But also, you're not allowed to do anything else. You're not allowed to cross over. You're not allowed to shoot step backs. You're not allowed to shoot that 2-dribble pull-up regardless of what EJ says during the broadcast. You're just not allowed to do that if you're Ryan Dunn. In order to play...
To be fair... Yeah, continue.
In order to play, he has to be someone who's capable of doing that. And it's possible he will get there. And it's possible... Like if the Suns were on the East Coast and they were playing a schedule that has a bunch of cupcakes throughout the season, yeah, but now... On the Western Conference, and Portland is the only cupcake right now, I just don't see a way to get Ryan Dunn in there regularly. Outside of that, Oso Ighodaro, just from where he stands in the depth chart, it's easy to see a scenario where, like you said, Sam, the combination of blowout games and then injuries, you could see Oso Ighodaro getting in there for more games. But I wouldn't be surprised if it went the way Max has outlined here, which is unders on both. And yeah, what did you want to say there, Sam?
Well, I want to defend Ryan just a little bit in saying that, like, you know, off-season workout videos are one thing, but I'm looking here at his Virginia page. He was the third scorer on his college team, right? So, like, he has always been, we knew the entire time that he's a bad offensive prospect. And obviously, yes, that means he's got a long way to go before he can contribute on an NBA stage. But in terms of knowing his role, I don't think we have to worry about him coming in and trying to, like, you know, cross up everyone, right? Like,
no, I don't think he can. I don't think he, what I mean is, I could see why somebody like KD would see him in practice and think he looks awesome, but his still not get minutes.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between the skills that you have in practice and what you're allowed to do in a one-on-one battle or an open gym, and what you have to do to make it on the NBA team with a bunch of other great players. It's just a different skill set.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited about both of them. So don't let my under or even Max's unders, I think if I'm speaking for you here, Max, underplay any sort of excitement. I still think they could be good. I just think Ryan Dunn, if you expected the Suns to pick him because they wanted him to play a lot this year, I don't think it's true. I think they understand the project they have, and I think they understand that the type of defense that Ryan Dunn's capable of playing is worth the longer term investment for him to be a better player down the line. So
what did Kawhi Leonard average in his rookie year? Is that where we're setting the expectations on?
How old was he his rookie year? I feel like he was pretty young. He had 2 years at UCSD.
He was 20 years old, and he's actually a bad example because he finished 4th in Rookie of the Year voting. Kawhi was already good even as a rookie.
He's a bad example for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, that's fair.
Bol. Let's talk Bol.
Yeah,
and this is a straight up easy number. It's 3-point percentage for Bol because to me, I hate to say it, but this is kind of everything for him. He can't really play center, at least he couldn't last year or the years before that. So in order for him to make it on the court, he has to make enough threes to make him a viable power forward. And, if this 3-point percentage drops far enough, maybe that Ryan Dunn under goes to an over, by the way. But Bol 3-point percentage, 38%. Last year, he had a career year, shot a ton of wide open threes, and shot 42.3%. Absurdly good percentage for him. The previous 2 seasons, he shot 26%. And then 25%, but that was 1 of 4 when he didn't play much in Denver. And then had some years of shooting 37 and 44 in really, really small sample sizes in his rookie and sophomore year. 42% is really high, so I dropped it a whole 4%, more than 4 percentage points here to do this over-under. But to me, 38% is still pretty high. I just don't think he's going to be guarded, at least for the first half of the season, and maybe he starts to get guarded a little bit more. So I'm factoring that a little bit into my thought process here. Max, what do you think about Bol this season?
I finally get to be positive. This is exciting. Easy over for me.
Yes.
I think Bol is just incredible offensively. Like, his touch is really shocking when you watch him play regularly. The problem is, I mean, as you alluded to earlier, he doesn't play defense all that well. I wish they could just teach him how to protect the rim, because he would be like an awesome NBA player, I feel like, if his defense was anywhere close to his offense.
He'd be the perfect Bud center if he could be a center, 100%. Yeah.
And he has obviously the tools to be a good defender. Maybe they can get him there. But yeah, offensively, I really don't have that many doubts about him. I think he's really good, and the touch is amazing, and I'm going over.
What do you think, Sam?
This is really close because, I mean, all of these are really close. It's just like, honestly, if Bol shot 37, so he technically went under on what your line is, but he took like 3 or 4 attempts per game and was like playing 20 minutes a game as like a 7th man, that's still an incredible season. Like, I think he could put together a really, really good campaign where he sets himself up. We're not going to have his bird rights, right? So he could set himself up to get a crazy contract, not a crazy contract, but like a mid-level contract somewhere else, potentially, if he had a season like that. I want to be able to say over here, it's just hard because, like, he really did shoot 42% on low volume, and his previous career high was Or like previously in his career, he was basically like a 32% guy. So
Yeah.
What's the line? 38?
29% before last season. I just looked it up.
It's 38 exactly.
38 exactly. Yes, sir.
I'll go under. But
Disrespectful.
I love Bol Bol. It's just like I think he could shoot 37.5 on high volume, and that's not disrespect.
That's a fair point.
This is why I lose all the time, but I'm going to go over because it's fun. I think that, to Max's point, when you watch him, at least last season, and I don't know if last season was like this outlier year for him or if this is just who he's been, the touch is crazy. Like
he's going to get such open shots too, man.
The shots are going to be wide open, and he has good point guards to get him the ball on time, on target. And the thing is like, of course the threes went in at a higher clip than they've ever gone in, and that's why he had a career year. That's why he was good. That's why he could be played, and that's why Frank Vogel should have probably tried him at some point in the postseason, and he didn't until it was too late. But the other thing he did often was catch the ball or at least drive it one or two dribbles in that mid-range area, and that was money every time he took it. His true shooting percentage was over 70% last year, and he shot a lot of jump shots. It's not like he was just catching it at the rim and dunking it. That was just insanely good touch.
No, he was
legit
basically...
Go ahead.
He was 7'3" JJ Redick at a certain point of the season. Not with the movement shooting exactly, but like the types of shots he was taking, his shot profile, it was all over the court. It wasn't just inside the paint.
Yeah, he somehow got to the point where you expected every shot he took to go in, which is crazy for Bol Bol to get to that point, but that's where I was with him.
Fuck, should I change mine, guys? Should we just all go over? I'm changing it. Am I allowed to do this?
Sure.
Okay.
There's no rules.
We're all going over on Bol Bol, and
Okay.
you guys can tell us we're stupid if you think that.
I like that, because if Max and I were wrong, you would have gotten an extra point there. So now if we're all wrong or we're all right, it's even. I appreciate that. Let's talk about three-point shooting more. I have two more here. Grayson Allen, three-pointers attempted per game. He shot 5.9 last year. I put it at 6. I put the number at 6. Now, the reason it's only a little bit higher, different role. Last year he started 60-plus games. This year he's coming off the bench. He's likely going to play minutes, but there were times last year where he was averaging the most minutes on the team, and I don't think that's going to be the case this year, just because it's really difficult to get him on the floor and also play point guards and also play all of the big three. He will still have games where he starts because there's going to be guys missing time on this team, and he seems to want to shoot more threes. So the idea is he will shoot more threes per minute here, but play slightly less minutes. So I set the 3-point attempts per game at 6. Do we believe that he's going to shoot more three-pointers than that, Max? What do you think?
This is a great one because I think it's almost, I don't want to say it's almost certain, but it feels almost certain that he's going to shoot more per minute but play fewer minutes this season. So it's how do you put those two things together? I think I'm going to go with a slight under. Just I think the minutes will outweigh the more shooting. But in Bud's system, Bud's obviously obsessed with getting threes up, and in a smaller role, that more focus on that, I'm sure he's going to get just an absolute ton per minute up. But again, there's just so many guards now. I'm going to go under, but I don't feel great about it.
What'd you think about his shoulders and his
overall
body transformation?
I hope it doesn't screw with the shot. I mean,
that's
I don't
what
think
I was
thinking.
thinking.
Yeah.
I like it from real quick. I do like it from the perspective of like we really need some guys who can guard wings. So maybe that'll help him be at least a little better at that. But we'll see.
Well, and he was also talking about it like that it extends his range, which I think is true. He shot 46% on threes last year. Can you imagine? I'm not expecting him, by the way, to shoot 46% this year, but can you imagine if he comes out, has another 40% three-point shooting season, and a lot of that is on 29-foot shots? That's, he just takes all of the best attributes of Eric Gordon, but leaves all the trash aside and kind of absorbs the best of him. That would be remarkable for us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go over here, Mike, and I guess the reason why is just we just had Media Day, and we were listening to Media Day, and so many guys. Do you already know where I'm going with this?
It's why I'm picking over too. He convinced me, but go ahead.
Well, so Bartelstein comes out and says we need to shoot more threes. James Jones comes out, says we need to shoot more threes. Bud comes out and needs to shoot more threes. The one player maybe not the one player, because Nurk mentioned threes too, but outside of Nurk, the one other player who it really felt like sort of internalized that message. KD said something about like, I'm not just taking mid-range shots to piss you all off, which I think is true. And Book and the star players, they all know that like that has to be in the back of their heads too. But Grayson is the one who directly in his comments had most clearly internalized this message from Bud already, where he was saying like we should be top 5 in 3-point volume as a team, and all it would take is for like all of the best players to each shoot one more a game, and like it's clear he's thinking about this. I don't know if you can change 37-year-old Kevin Durant's nature regarding like just taking more pull-up threes, and I don't know if you can change Book. I hope it's true for those guys. I'm just not sure. But Grayson is such a natural shooter who I think understands what he needs to do to make the team better, that yes, he will be playing fewer minutes, but I think he really might jack him up. I think he really may have taken the message to heart. So I'm going to go over.
I am as well. I just feel like the way he was talking about it, he mentioned deeper threes, more threes off movement, and pull-up threes. So his thought process was, the way that I can take more is by increasing the repertoire of threes that I can take. So the types of threes that he can shoot increases, and then his overall opportunities will increase. So I think it's possible that it's still under, and we still really appreciate the effort that he put into shooting more threes, just because that's what it took. The thing is, he was so open last year, partially because he played so many minutes with star players. The rotations are going to be a little bit different. I'm not sure how much more open he's going to be than last year, but I do think that he is the type of player that's going to put a ton of effort into shooting more. So I'm going to say over, just because he's talked about it himself, and he really kind of convinced me that he's going to do it. Wouldn't surprise me if it was under, though. How about as a team? Now, this is, I think, the important one. The Suns last year shot 32.6 three-point attempts per game.
Where did that rank?
That ranked, I'll tell you right now, 25th in the NBA. Let me read you.
No.
So bad.
Let me read you the top of the NBA. Boston Celtics, 42.5. Dallas Mavericks, 39.5. Is there something interesting about those two teams last year? I don't remember. Oh, yeah, they made the NBA Finals. Sacramento Kings, 39.3. Golden State Warriors, 38.9. Milwaukee Bucks, 38.1. That's the top 5 right there. I put the over-under at 37.5. Now, that would have them ranking 8th in the NBA last year. But it's also an increase of essentially 5 3-point attempts per game. Now, I'm curious, first of all, how much you buy into it, whether or not they're going to shoot. And Sam, I'll let you go first, give Max an opportunity to think about this. As well, how satisfied you would be if they ended the season 8th in the NBA after, of course, last season being 25th. But all the talk about them shooting more. So what do you think?
Yeah.
Sam?
I mean, look, if they went 25th to 1st, you're talking about a 7 seconds or less, like revolutionary type change that they go on to win a championship in 16 games, and people write about this team 20 years from now. Like that's not my expectation. For them to go 25th to 8th would already be great. It would signify real change. It would signify a message that was taken to heart, top down, I think, from the star players down to the role players. I struggle with the notion that they're going to get there. I'm going to be honest. I think they could still be taking 35, 30, like a few more threes per game and get up to league average in this stat at least, and cut down on their turnovers and basically have a top 5 offense and have a really good chance at like making a deep playoff run. And I think that's more in line with what my personal expectations are. But to say that they would take 5 more a game, I just need to have more faith. The reason I'm going to go under, so that's my official answer, and it's just, I don't know that I believe in KD and Book to do it. I believe that the role players will do it. I don't know about the stars.
What do you think, Max?
You stole my exact thought. I really badly wish I could go over here, but you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and Booker and Durant are going to be taking the lion's share of shots on this team, and I just don't think those guys want to shoot that many threes. We have a lot of evidence that they don't want to do that. And they're also, those two players are both guys, and I used to make this comparison between Booker and Chris Paul. Like Chris Paul is more of a technician. He's more of like implement a strategy, Whereas I feel Katie and Booker are much more like kind of like artist types, where they just kind of free flow with how basketball is treating them at the moment. They're just kind of in the game. I just don't think they can say whatever they want at media day and they can make all the good points and the good noises and such. But when they're actually in an NBA game, I just don't think that they're thinking that way. I think they're just playing basketball to the best of their ability, and that's why they're great. But also, it's why I don't think they're going to shoot more threes.
I agree, and that's why it's so hard also for a coach to come in, because we talk about all the merits of replacing Vogel with Bud, and those exist. But to have a coach come in and like get these guys who are absolutely phenomenally talented at their craft to think fundamentally in a different way, you don't want to take that artistry away from them. At least, not significantly, right? You'd like them to think about things in a slightly different way, but just the idea that you're going to be able to actually change who they are, I don't know. I really struggle with it.
Yeah, the one wild card could be if Katie gets to the point where he's old enough where he can't do some of the stuff he used to be able to do, and he has to rely on the three-point shooting more.
Sure,
it may kind of ironically work out for him. May make him a better player.
That's kind of like the late stage Melo. And now, granted, if KD actually became like Portland Trailblazers Melo, then we'd be fucked, right? So like we don't want that to happen. But that's sort of how Melo extended his career by like 5 years after he could no longer be a 20-point per game scorer. Is he was finally like, okay, I'll just chill in the corner and shoot.
It took a couple of teams for him to be convinced of that. Which I don't know. Maybe KD's in the midst of that. I just doubt it. I'm also going to go under, and that makes me sad that we all agree on that one. It's just, I don't know what the number would have had to be for me to go over. Like, if it was 32.6, which is what they shot last year, I'd probably go over that. I think they'll shoot more than that. I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to be a dramatic increase, but I hope they prove me wrong. This is their opportunity.
I think if you set this at like 36, I'd probably go over. But 37.5 is a lot.
36, I'll tell you where that would have them. Let's say they shot 36.1 attempts per game. Let me see. That would put them at 12th in the NBA, which is what the Houston Rockets shot last year.
I would take that.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Their belief is that a point guard will help them create more threes. Devin Booker, once in his career, shot 7 or more three-point attempts per game. That year, he was 4th in MVP voting. He was on the All-NBA, first-team All-NBA, and was an All-Star. And it was the most wins the Suns have ever had in a season. So, just a thought.
Yeah, worthwhile point to bring out that Tyus Jones should absolutely help this stat go over.
Yeah, I think it's definitely...
you're right.
But they have to take it when they catch it, which I do think Booker and KD, when they catch it wide open, I made this comparison in a previous podcast, it's not like Julius Randle, where they wait for the defense to get there, and then they dribble in, and then they try and... They shoot those when they catch them wide open. It's just that they're not wide open very often behind the three-point line, so often the shots that they take are different shots. So we'll see what they end up doing. It's really kind of... Ultimately, this stat really relies a lot on the rest of the team, which is why they're so desperate for Nurkic to shoot threes.
Yeah. Speaking of Julius Randle, Sam, you're the one who loved him, right? You must be terrified of the Wolves now. You must think they're going to win like 3 titles in a row.
No, I wouldn't say that. I've sort of gone back and forth in my Julius arc, and I think it's just because...
So is he.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Exactly. It's I always say my eyes take in new information, and I'm able to update my opinions as that new information comes in. And yeah, Julius sadly is just like the biggest roller coaster ride of probably any quote unquote NBA star we have, right? Like, can you think of someone who's more up and down than Julius Randle over the past 5-6 years?
DeAndre.
Randle makes all NBA teams. Randle makes all NBA teams, and then it's like awful the next year. It's crazy how much he swings.
Yeah, that is crazy. I hope they're bad.
Same.
I hope that team sucks. Let's talk the big three: Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. I'm going to give you points per game for all 3 of them.
Okay.
And I'm curious where you stand. Bradley Beal now will no longer be the point guard on this team. The goal seems to be for him to be a scorer first now. Last year he averaged 18 point something, just over 18 points a game. 18.2. I set his over-under at 20 points per game, which, keep in mind, 3rd best player on the team. Will be some injuries, so there will be times where he's taking the 2nd most shots. There will be time that he's taking the most shots on this team. I'll go first, and I'm going to say under, but I am not confident in that. I just think it's difficult for a 3rd banana, if you will, to to get over 20 points a game. It's just that how often does that really happen? It's definitely possible. I'm just curious to see how this team's shot profile changes with the point guard on the team. It seems like the goal is to make him, Bud told him, according to Brad, we're going to get you back to the Brad that was scoring 30 points a game. So it seems like the goal is to get him more shots, which makes sense. That's what he's here for. It's not like he's there for defense, but I'm not sure I believe that he can get over 20. Max, what do you think?
I think I'm going to go over. It's difficult. I think he'll be probably the primary beneficiary of Tyus Jones coming to this team because Booker and Durant are going to get the attention, and so he'll have a lot of open shots created by Tyus Jones, you would imagine. I also believe in him. The only star of the 3 stars I believe in shooting a lot more threes is him. I think he will do that. It's kind of what he was drafted to do. So I think I'm going to go slight over. It's a big number for a third banana, as you're saying, but like he's also said, that he's going to have opportunities where he's a second or first guy because of injury. And again, I really think Tyus Jones is going to help him out.
This is another great line because I'm tempted to say that he'll go in with a more aggressive mindset than last year and definitely could average more than 18.2, but to get all the way up into the 20s is difficult. And for that reason, I'm going to go a slight under and contrast with what Max is saying.
It's a hard one. Like I think he scores 21. I had it at 20.5 originally. I dropped it down just a little bit to make it a little harder. I think, and because I think he could easily average 20.1 or whatever. Yeah.
Have the Suns ever had and I know like you can't compare against eras because offensive ratings are crazy right now, right? So I get it. There's literally more players than ever who are averaging 20 points per game. That being said, have we ever had a third banana average 20? Like, did Marley ever get to 20?
Did Marion? Maybe. I don't think Marion ever got there. That'd be the only one I could think of who may have gotten
Marion got there, then Nash didn't.
Nash never got. Yeah, Nash is always under 20, wasn't he?
So,
He's always 16 and 11 or whatever. Yeah.
But definitely this team would score more because they would just play. They'd shoot more threes. They'd play faster pace, all that. So I get you can't make those direct comparisons. It's just really hard to think of previous examples of this happening.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. Well, and then maybe one of them doesn't. It's not Beal. I don't want to bring that up, but Katie's getting old, guys. I'm just gonna say. Katie's getting old.
Well, I guess you'll have an opportunity to talk about that in a second. But let's talk about Devin Booker. Let's see Devin Booker's last 3 years: 27.1 points per game, 27.8 points per game, 26.8 points per game. Those are his last 3 years. Before that, 25.6, 26.6, 26.6. This guy's pretty consistent in what he scores, and it's always around 27 points. So that's what I put the line at, 27 points. I'll go first again, and I'm going to say over because I always do for his, which is I've been wrong multiple years because I've set the number higher before, but he's so consistent in that. That's just kind of where you have to put it. He did it last year. He scored more last year, had the ball a lot. He did it the previous year, 27.8. He looked awesome at the Olympics, genuinely awesome, and they were miserable last year. I'd be shocked if he scored under this, but they could be awesome, and he could have 26.8 like he did the year that he had 4th place in MVP voting. That's what he scored that year, and they were awesome. So I'm not really sure where to put this, but what do you think, Max?
Going to be wish casting a little bit here, I think. I'm going to take the over, and it's mostly because I want it to be the case that they focus Booker as the number one option, and it's really clear this. Last year on offense, again, I complained about Vogel a lot, but they didn't really have a plan. It was a lot of your turn, my turn, stuff like that. I really think the plan should be Booker gets the most shots. We got to, the only way this team wins the title, in my opinion, is if Booker is a top 5 player in the NBA. That's how they get there. I just think Durant's a little not kind of past that point in his career. He's got to be, more firmly the second guy. So because I want them to play that way, and I think it's the best chance for them to win a lot of games, I'm going to go over here, and hopefully it's more like 30, not 27.
I'm going to go under. Did you go under, Mike, or did you go over?
I went over.
So I'll be the only one to take the under on Booker points, and the reason has nothing to do with his performance. I think he's going to be hyper efficient and hopefully takes a lot of shots. In fact, I agree with what you're saying, Max. I think they should feature him more. My argument comes entirely down to Bud uses more depth, or at least historically uses more depth than a guy like Frank Vogel does. And Book played 36 minutes a game last year. We've made this point before, Mike. But if you look back at those Bucks lineups, guys like Giannis and Middleton and Drew, they were playing 32, 33. not 36. Part of that might be you need to have a good enough season to where you're like consistently blowing out other teams so that those guys get pulled in fourth quarters. But maybe we see that happen, right? And so, like, if we see Book play 32, 33 minutes a game this year, is he still going to be able to get 27? I'm not so sure. So I'll go under.
All right. Kevin Durant. Same number. 27 points per game. I'll read the last few seasons for him. 22-23, 29.1 points per game. And that includes Brooklyn and Phoenix, 23-24. Phoenix, by the way, only played 8 games, but 26 points per game. Last year, 27.1. So he was just slightly over 27 points per game. I think you could make the case that it was kind of a worst-case scenario season for him, and he still scored 27 points per game, personally. But, counterpoint, old. And at some point,
DNP old.
At some point, that starts catching up with guys. And Durant, it just hasn't. It's kind of bizarre. At least the types of shots he's taken have moved further and further away from the basket. But he's so insanely efficient at those shots, it hasn't affected his overall efficiency and scoring numbers very much at all. So, Max, I'm curious what you think about this one.
Yeah, I kind of previewed it a bit already, but just be consistent with where I've gone so far, I've gone over on Booker and Beal. I think I absolutely kind of have to take it under on KD. Also, that one counterpoint to things didn't go well last season. They certainly didn't go well in general, but Durant's points per game number was a little inflated by the beginning of the season when Beal and Booker were both out, and he was the entire offense for a month there. Yeah. I think he was averaging 30 a game at that time. So I don't, I'm hoping that doesn't happen again. that would be really bad. I think, the other thing too is if the team's really good, I think the first thing that you do is you try to preserve Kevin Durant for the playoffs, right? He's the 37-year-old. He's the one you don't want to get injured, and his history in that area is not great. So I think there's a lot of incentive to not overuse him. And also, again, I'm wish casting here. I really want them to turn this offense over to Booker as much as possible. So under for me.
To your point, Max, the month of November for KD last year.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ, this is actually insane. He averaged 33 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists on 66% true shooting as the number one option.
Yeah.
And that was that's the beginning of the season with the freshest legs possible. And he struggled much more post All-Star break. I think once we saw kind of the weight of all of that responsibility kind of build up over the course of the season. But the fact that he's even able to give us stretches like that at all at his age is really remarkable. But yeah, just for a similar reason as my Booker argument, I'm going to go under just because I think Bud is going to want to preserve him a few extra minutes per game and keeping him on the bench. And maybe he slows down per minute. I hope that doesn't happen this year. And honestly, I'm not even sure that he's actually going to slow down per minute. My argument mostly just comes down to playing him a little bit less.
Man, you guys make some pretty convincing arguments. I want to go over because I think they're going to play fast. And I think there's going to just be more possessions per game. And even if he plays slightly less minutes, I think he could go over. But I also want them to be good enough that maybe he could actually sit every once in a while and doesn't have to play as many minutes as he played. He played so many minutes last year. He was top 5 in minutes basically the entire season. So I'm going to go under, and I'm only going to go under based on a minutes argument because I think on a per minute basis, I just until I see his efficiency go down, I have no reason to believe that it will.
He averaged 26.2 per 36 last season at 35. That is the same exact number that he averaged as a 23-year-old in the year that the Thunder went to the finals and lost to LeBron James.
That's crazy.
That's a cool stat, yeah.
Over a decade later, 12 years later, still the same guy.
The dude is good at scoring the basketball, man. How about the first Olympic performance when he came out that first game? I think against Serbia. Oh my God!
8 shots.
The guy still has it. Yeah, the guy still has it.
Yeah. Here's a new one. Mid-season players traded. 1.5. Will more than one player be traded away from this team mid-season? We know the trade restrictions on this team.
Oh, this is a good one.
We also know that Josh Okogie was signed to a tradable contract. And maybe Nurkic will be on this team long term. Maybe he won't, based on how things play out. Will more than one... I'll start with you, Sam. Will more than one player be traded from this team this year? I think at least one player will, because that's kind of how it's been every offseason.
That's fair. That's fine. Yep.
Yeah.
But we know that because second apron restrictions apply and we can't aggregate contracts together, basically what you're saying is, will there be two separate trades at the deadline?
Correct.
Because otherwise it
or
would be...
not at the deadline. At any point between now and the deadline.
Between now and the deadline, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. But they're not going to... Come on. They wouldn't do it to us during preseason again. They wouldn't do it like that.
Okay. So
There's
I saw
no
that
way.
I think Mitchell Robinson is on the market to be traded right now. Now,
I'm
I'm not saying the Suns are interested in Mitchell Robinson. I don't really think they are. But could I see the Suns trying to get into one of those trades to get some sort of other player back? Yeah, I could see it happening, and there could be just some sort of trade that happens right now. You know, it might even, I mean, plug your ears if you're really looking forward to rookies. It might even be one of the younger guys that could go.
No, not again. You can't. You did it to me with Tumani Kamara. You can't. Yeah. James Jones. He can't get away with it. I'm going to go under. I feel like Josh Okogie is kind of just waiting to be punted off this team, sadly. But I guess the question is, like, if they just trade Josh Okogie but nothing else, they're not getting anything for that, which is what makes this so difficult.
They can trade a pick, right? They have one they can trade.
Yeah. They could trade the 2031 first-round pick and Josh Okogie, but, like, what is it? Do you think that
Not
gets
much.
us a game changer? I guess it could get us another Royce O'Neal equivalent mid-season, whoever that ends up being.
Yeah, that would be rough. They would have to be really good in order to justify trading that pick.
I agree. I'm tempted to go under, but I can't explain why. This is purely on vibes.
I mean, yeah, it takes two teams to want to do this. That's the hard part about this, but it's whether or not they want to. They probably do want to.
And the second apron restrictions cannot be understated in how that affects this. It's so hard to trade more than one player now as the Suns. Because I think you definitely can't aggregate players together to reach a salary. Can you trade? Could we do the inverse? Do you guys know? Can we trade like two for a lesser value?
No, I don't think you still can.
Okay,
no.
so no matter what, so basically we're limited to one-on-one trades, or I guess basically one-on-one trades mostly,
or like one-on-two, because they do have an open roster spot.
Yeah,
so they can take two
one-on-two.
players back, but they can't aggregate two players out. Yeah.
So anyway, because of that, I think alone is why I'm going to go under on this. I think they'll probably make one trade because teams make trades, but it's hard to see them making two separate trades.
I'm going to go over just to try to make up ground on you guys in case I'm down at this point of the podcast. At the end of the season.
He's going for the Hail Mary. Mike thinks that there's going to be a fire sale in January and all hell will break
Kevin
loose.
Durant and Bradley Beal are traded. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those that if we just have like the disaster season of disaster seasons, we can come back and laugh at how there were actually 10 trades this year for the Suns.
Two more. Phoenix Suns total wins, and then Phoenix Suns seed. And I'll explain that one in a second. We'll start with wins, 47.5. This is the official number. They won more than this last year. We all tend to believe that they are better this year, better coach, better roster, deeper team. But does that lead to more wins? Max, what do you think?
To me, I don't think they're going to win that many games. I think they're either going to win a lot more or a lot fewer games than that. That mostly based on injury luck, I think. Right. I'm going to go over just to be positive, and also because I do think that if they are reasonably healthy, they should beat this number. I think this number has a lot of injury baked into it. I know the West is tough, but they're just going to be they're just going to win a lot of regular season games with the potency and with Tyus Jones and Monty Morris calming things down. I mean, again, they won 49 last year with all the issues that we've discussed ad nauseum that they had. This team is definitely a better roster than they had last year. They should go over if healthy.
Yeah, this roster is 100% better than last year, and which is why I'm going over. I think the other Western Conference stuff will sort itself out. Memphis will be good, don't get me wrong, but I guess I'm not as terrified of a Memphis bounce back as maybe some other people, and I think it'll be pretty properly counterweighted by, like, maybe the Clippers are terrible, maybe some other team that we're not anticipating is terrible. You know, maybe this is the year Denver just falls apart. Who knows? Anything could happen, and... yeah, I mean, it's like guys are already getting injured. Luka already has like a strain of some sort, right? Like he's out for a week, but there will be opportunity for the Suns based on some other teams maybe falling in the standings. Over.
I'm also going to pick over. So we're all aligned with that one. And this is more of a Bud bet than anything else. He wins a lot of games in the regular season and has in his last 2 coaching stops, and this will be his 3rd one where he has the opportunity to do that. I'd be surprised if they won less than last year. It's definitely injury related, though, if they do. And if things are looking bad in a way where they're not going to meet that win total over and everyone's healthy, I don't know. The over that I did for the midseason players traded might actually hold if that's the case, because that means things are going really badly. The last time the Suns came off of Devin Booker performing in the Olympics, it was the most wins they've ever had. Not saying that the Bill Simmons the Olympics thing holds for every team every time. Otherwise, every single one of those American teams are going to have a really great season, but that did happen.
My pet theory is the officials, most of whom are American, will just be brimming with patriotism off of the Olympic bump, and that this is going to be the year Book averages like 10 free throws a game. He's going to get the whistle. He's going to get the whistle this time.
So, seed-wise, this is a tough one. I'm looking at my number wondering if I should change it, but I'm going to leave it. 4.5 seed or better. So I'm asking you,
good.
Will they have home court advantage, or will they be worse than that in the upcoming season? Now, obviously, this is better. They were the 6th seed last year. So I'm asking you, will they be better or significantly better? Because I think there's a chance they win 47 games and still somehow sneak into that top 4. I don't know what the West is going to look like this year. There's just not easy games for any team. So I just don't know how it's going to shake out.
Well, let's how about we just name the teams that are in competition, right? We all know OKC's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Dallas, Denver, Minnesota are, I think, in some order, expected to be 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And then who's next?
Phoenix is probably
New
right
Orleans?
there. Well, it's not kind of Phoenix, yeah.
Yeah. Sacramento could be good. You don't really know.
Yeah, sure.
If everything goes right for the San Antonio Spurs, I guess you could make the case.
Houston could see them being pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Houston. The Clippers are out of it, right? We're throwing them out of that as a possibility.
Yeah. I think that's a long shot there.
And then the Lakers.
Lakers and Warriors, I guess.
The sort of old guard guys.
Yeah, so I think Memphis and Phoenix are almost kind of in their entering the season in their own little like mini tier of 5, 6. This is the way I think of like the national kind of coverage around it. And then I think the next tier is probably Kings, Lakers, Warriors, Pelicans bunched all together, 7
and then 10. The Spurs, and then everyone else, right?
And then
that's how I would look at it. At least.
And then the Spurs as like maybe, or Spurs and Rockets as like maybe they sneak in.
Yeah, Spurs and Rockets are the maybes. Yeah.
And then Utah, Portland, and who are we missing? Oh, Utah, Portland, and Clippers. Bad.
Utah, Portland, Clippers. Yeah, is that everyone?
Yeah,
I think that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, in order for this to happen, Memphis needs to be like not that great. Like they can be good, but they can't be great. And one of Minnesota, Denver, or Dallas needs to just have a disappointing year. Like
I want to mention actually,
or OKC. I gotta admit, it's not impossible for OKC to disappoint.
You're right. It's not impossible. But actually, Max? How do you feel about OKC's off season? Their FanDuel odds are probably set at. What's their over-under, Mike? Like 60 something?
It's like high, 58 or 59 or something. I can check right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if all goes well, they're going to be freaking awesome. They had a great offseason. Their roster looks incredible, but, and then Shea tears his ACL, right? So you never totally know. You just don't know. You can't guarantee anything.
No, he is really important for that team to do great. Yeah. Because in a way that I think other teams have some, I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
Like a little bit of insulation against star players getting hurt. Obviously, any team loses its star. Like if Denver loses Jokic, then they're going to suck too, right? But like you're right, Max, in the sense that Shea, his dribble drive penetration is the thing that makes OKC go, right? Yeah. And without that, like they would just have no way. They're just
not literally immune to a disaster season. It can happen to anybody. I mean, they definitely feel like the surest bet. No doubt. I would definitely, if I had to bet my life on this, there's no doubt I'm betting them the 1 seed.
56.5 is their over. So actually, it's high, but it's it's realistic.
That's attainable. High. That's for sure attainable. I'm gonna say fuck it and go over. The Suns will be the 4th seed. They'll have home court advantage. And if you ask me which team is gonna suck to make that happen, Honestly, between Denver, Minnesota, and Dallas, I would just say, like, I don't like any of those teams, so it could be any of them.
You don't like the Celtics Shaq, which is what Klay Thompson is on the on the Mavs this year.
I mean, I'm not high. I'm not high on Klay to the Mavs. Who were we talking to recently that was high on it? Was that Dan? I think it was Dan Favale.
Maybe, yeah.
I honestly, any of those teams could just be a lot worse than we're expecting. Minnesota, I really don't know what they were doing with the Randall trade. I mean, yeah, I still get it, like it's been explained to me, but I don't get it at the same time. I think that was a bad trade for them.
I think they could be awesome this year. I want to mention
and Denver's depth is on the verge, on the precipice of just collapsing.
Before you lock in your bet here, your over under or better or worse option here, I want to mention the freedom of movement thing that Rick Carlisle talked about recently. NBA coaches are expecting the physicality rules from the second half of the season last year to return this year, and for the defensive players to get the benefit of the doubt more often than not. So this, I think, could have actual real impacts on win totals for teams. Now, the Suns, to me, are one of those teams, but also, isn't Memphis kind of one of those teams too? Any team that has star point guards that are kind of that actually hurt by it. You know, like Ja Morant facing the kind of defense that the Suns faced towards the end of last year. I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but will he be as good as before in those in the rules that sort of allowed guards to have the benefit of the doubt constantly and get constant foul calls? SGA, like, is he going to get 11 free throw attempts a game if the rules give defenders?
What about Luka?
Luka's different, man. he's just huge.
He did average. I'm looking at the stats now, and I guess I didn't realize Luka's free throw attempts per game. He still averaged 8.7, right? But
Ja's pretty small. SGA's a little bit bigger, but pretty small. Luka's huge.
I know he is, but he led the league in scoring last year. His free throw attempts per game actually dropped by 2 per game because of those rule changes you're talking about.
Yeah,
and he still led the league in scoring. So to be fair, you're right, he is different.
It's just Jokic
is the other guy who's just immune to this, right? Like, it doesn't matter if the rules change. Jokic is going to be dominant.
Exactly, and I think it impacts KD. I think it impacts Devin Booker a little bit, and Bradley Beal is sort of third on that totem pole, so it doesn't impact him as much, but. I don't know. It impacts how I think about this season a little bit, and I haven't fully worked out mentally how much it changes things. But I do think Memphis is one of those teams that actually might be impacted by it a little bit. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think that those rules are very good for the Suns in general. I'm going to go over still. I don't think they're going to be the 1 seed, but I think they'll get a home court advantage this time. Again, with reasonable injury luck. They won 49 last year. They would have been a home court team if they would have not had if basically everything that happened before January didn't happen. So I feel pretty good about over, just a slight over.
All right, I am going to go over too. I think this is optimism season after all.
Did we all go over on wins and seed? Okay.
Yes,
perfect.
we did. We're
over. Correlated at least. They are correlated.
Yep. Yeah, I think they are too. I think if you go over on one, I don't know. 48 wins could be the 4th seed pretty easily. It's kind of funny to think about the Suns' history when it comes to 48 wins here, but it definitely could be the 4th seed, and that's an over in this scenario. It's going to be a wild season when it comes to the West. Teams could be great. There's probably going to be a team or two that was supposed to be good that is bad that we don't really anticipate. Hoping that's not the Suns, obviously. Maybe it's Denver. I don't know. Maybe it could be actually Denver if Jamal Murray plays like he did in the Olympics.
Oh my
Jamal
God,
Murray, by the way,
bad.
another player who in FIBA rules was awful, and the NBA, Rick Carlisle literally said the NBA is probably going to look more like FIBA.
I hope so. FIBA was more fun to watch.
It
honestly.
was,
they should
man.
More like FIBA.
I really liked it. I even liked the short
part of that.
Same.
I do like the FIBA rules. Part of that too, though, guys, is just like the lack of over commodification and commercialization of everything is definitely like not commercial breaks every 2 minutes. That's a huge advantage when you're watching those FIBA games.
It's a good point.
Max, appreciate you joining us for this every year. I look forward to occasionally seeing you step in and give some hot fire takes throughout the NBA season, and then, of course, joining us at the end of the season. You're always a blast on these episodes. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time. Hopefully, we'll have a better season and a more fun recap at the end of the year than we had last year.
That's right. Appreciate you. And everyone listening, if you want to see all of our new merchandise, check out ethicalhoops.com for all of that brand new stuff up there right now. We'll be back midweek with a Patreon episode talking about more preseason basketball and maybe even a playback watching a preseason basketball game this week. So keep track of our feeds for information on that. We appreciate you all. It's a good time to join the Patreon. Patreon.com/thetimeline. Thanks, everyone.
For over a century, Johnny Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereaux Golf, Johnny Walker introduces the Johnny Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereaux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnnywalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly.